So now let me turn to Tom Farrell, who is scratch building his layout. And we welcome you, Tom. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Um, there we go. Boy, you look different, Tom. Let's try this again. All right, there we go. Handsome devil. Okay. Okay, so tonight I'm going to show you a scratch build that I consider my finest scratch build. And what's unique about it is that when I started it approximately 8 years ago, I basically miscolored it and I put it away for a long period. And then in between selling my old house, breaking down my old railroad, and moving into a new house, we lived in an apartment, and I took it on and created again what I think is my finest work. So here we go. So it's a coal tower based on the Durango coal tower. There's my model to the right. It's not an exact duplicate, but it's pretty close. The idea was to, I used the actual plans from the Durango Tower to create mine. This model stands 14 inches high. Throughout the years, there's numerous photographs on Google on this Durango Coal Tower. This little roof here, for example, has sometimes it's on the Durango photograph, sometimes it isn't, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. So through the years, there's changes. So it's not exactly unprototypical that I bump this up. I principally, and I'll get into the construction, but I moved the difference here left to right. I moved this up because if I put this down where it is here, you don't see all this detail. It took me 2 days to make. So anyway, so I'm going to show you how I scratch built this thing. I started it way back in October of 2014, and I stopped it about 3 days later. It just looked terrible to me, and the painting, and I thought I just ruined it. And I started it back up 8 years later, and I completed it a couple years ago. So that's an interesting timeline. The moral of this story is don't give up in your models. They can be reworked, although I will admit 8 years is a long time. I started with the main body of the coal tower, the coal bin, and I made this out of plywood. And I put my typical 1/4 inch reinforcement in there. And then I put a plywood base on there. The reason I wanted a substantial box, I layered I put like a gel super glue in there. So this thing is a very strong and stout box. As I put strip wood on there to simulate, and I found basically, well, I think I used 2x12, 2x12s on this unit. And the interesting thing about this is I had them stick out here so that when I put the other things on, I had a nice corner here. I don't know if you see what I mean by that. So instead of just having these flush against the plywood here, I staggered them, and then every other, and then I sanded it, and it made for a nice corner. These aren't exactly great photographs. You can see it a little bit here. So I just continued to detail the outside of this coal bin with these strips of basically 2x12s. And then I stained it with a, walnut type stain, and it kind of looked like this, but I didn't really like that look. And this was working down the path where I would eventually stop in the model because I just thought I destroyed the coloring of it. Then I added a little gray wash to it to further destroy the look of it. These are marked with a square. This is where the 12 by 12s supports will go. This is the bottom. These are the 12 by 12 supports, just looking down. So there's what it looks like. So these are orange, this is brown. Overall, it was pretty ugly to me. So I just said, you know what? I really don't like the direction this is going in. So I put it on the shelf and moved on to other projects. Then when I shut down the Rustic Buff and Old Gothic Railroad, temporarily moved into an apartment in 2022, I thought, let me have a look at this thing. Maybe I can salvage it. So I just assumed I was going to repaint this somehow, and I started building the bottom. This is Monster Works material. And I've mounted this unit on a plywood base, which is my standard. And I stained this a respectable color. I kind of like that. I still hated this. This Halloween orange and this brown just didn't work for me. So I came up, I started mixing colors, and I came up with this mix that used this walnut stain, a gel stain, a titanium white, and a black. It had to be opaque. I had to put this on here, and it couldn't just be a stain, because I didn't want to pick up the colors of the what I had on there. So anyway, I started painting it, this grayish weathered look. Remember, it was orange like this, and it turned into this. So I was on to something, because this looked very acceptable, a nice weathered look. So I just started painting it, basically, this mixture that I came up with. And that's all. I mean, this is new wood here, but this was the old colors here, and they're all gone. And this thing is principally constructed of these 12 by 12s, a lot of them, 1/4 inch material. This is a plywood box. This is the top. Again, it's going to get veneered with individual pieces of wood, so you have to have something fairly substantial to glue those strips on. I tend to make things very robust. So this has 1/4 inch material inside. This flooring here is the northeastern scale ship decking, 1/16 inch in width. I didn't think you'd really see it, but if you look up, you'll see what appears to be board by board construction. There's looking down at it. This roof here that's out of focus is just another piece of plywood. So I've got this very robust section here, and I put a plywood roof on it as well. So these roofs are all plywood, and I don't have any in between. I just got so excited that the model was progressing, I forgot to take photographs. So these will be finished photographs of the model going forward. I stenciled, I bought some stencils at Hobby Lobby, 1 letter at a time. I painted them with a white, that same white acrylic that I used to mix this brown gray. I got the colors roughly in there, and then I had to go in with a paintbrush and finally round them out and whatnot. But it's a very nice effect, very weathered effect. This is that Paper Creek Model Works, no longer in production. This is black tar paper. Now this is gray tar paper because I took the black tar paper and I scanned it into PowerPoint, and you have the ability to lighten or recolor it. I recolored it a gray. Then I took a permanent black magic marker and I outlined the individual pieces. which looked very harsh, but I had used this technique before where I just spray it with dull coat and it blends, it basically dissolves the permanent marker, makes this nice gray, this finish here. So that was a technique I had learned by mistake. I had sprayed a Paper Creek roof like this before, and I had black lines on it, and they ran, and it was a happy accident, as we say in the hobby. And so it's now one of my techniques. Now it can be your technique if you like it. And these are the Grant Line 2.5-inch hex nuts on a 6-inch square. You just take a little pin vise with a drill, and you drill the hole, put a drop of super glue in there, and push the Grant Line hex nut washer in place, and then you just tap it, paint it with a little rust colors. It's a very nice effect. All this wood, by the way, was all scribed with a razor saw. You'll see it on some close-ups, but every piece of wood was scribed to give it some detail, some finish, so you're just not using flat pieces of material. There's that Paper Creek Model Works. They made a bunch of stuff that was very nice. You can see the contrast, how this was black. This is my master. They don't make it anymore, so I feel free. I don't have any pangs about copying it. They're no longer in business. So I brought it in there, scanned it, made it gray. You can see the difference there. 2006, it says. There's the finished model. I'll have some close-ups of this mechanism, which took me about 3 days to put together. It's like working on a watch. And this whole model took a lot of time. It's 14 inches high. It has some mass to it. This is real metal for the roofing. I just used this technique in the past. I spray it with a primer. Then I use various acrylics to rust it. This is actually styrene. These are supposedly access doors. I just made them, they're individual pieces super glued onto the wood, and they're rusted too with just a variety of acrylic paint. There's a side view. There's some more of that up in here. This triangle is some more of that northeastern scale ship decking. This is 1/8 inch wide, and then I put these vertical braces on there. It's a fast and easy way to get what appears to be a stick build, like on the side here, very rapidly, although there was nothing rapid about this model. Here's the back. These are the loading bins. I scratch built those out of styrene. I have a close-up of those coming up. They ride in a track here that I created between the 12x12s. And I had to, if I was smart, I would have pre-painted that piece of styrene in there black. But for some reason, I glued it in there and had to go back with a very fine brush and paint it black. There's those bins I purchased from Micromark. They have these rivets. I'll have a close-up, but to add this, give this detail, these coal bins, I put these Micromark rivets on this. I made this trolley. It's just styrene. The ladders, they're simple enough to make. They're just pieces, little pieces, and a jig I made. There's platforms. So basically you walk up here. This is looking up. You can't really see that, but if you do look up there, you do see some detail. I just didn't want that to be painted black, and I didn't want it to be a flat piece of wood. You can see some of the how I scribed all this wood with the razor saw, all 4 sides. And then you get these fuzzies you got to sand off, and then you got to stain it. But that adds a lot of dimension to your model to put the wood grain on there. There's an up close of my bins. Those are just styrene rivets. This is just wire from flower wire that from making flowers, like bendable wire. This little jewel took a lot of time right here. These little tiny pieces, and I had to make it look like metal and make it look like it functioned, and it was welded. And this was a little science project. There's an up close of the. I want you to take note of the scribing of the wood and what a difference it makes. If you're ever doing a contest quality model, you got to do this. Flat wood just won't cut it, but that looks like real wood, real live, like you're looking at an actual coal bin. Everything is scribed. There's still a tiny bit of fuzzies there, but see, I have the rust, a little bit of rust running downward off the Grant line nuts. If the water, the weathering would go down, not left, not right, not up, but down. There's an up close of the mechanism. And up close of the scribing. The scribing is one of the reasons that contributed to how long this took to make. And again, these are just overalls left and right of the model. Again, this thing's 14 inches high, sitting on plywood. And I consider it my best. So that's it.
That is just a fantastic job. Beautiful model. That
Hey,
is
Tom.
something you really ought to be proud of.
Hey,
Thank you.
Tom, it's Bob Geldmacher. What was the combination of paints that you used? I've got the very same model and I've got mine too dark and I'd like to lighten it up.
Oh, then you can use my magic elixir.
That's exactly what I'm asking about.
It was, hold on one moment. Of course, my computer here, hold on one moment. I'll get you the slide. But they can all be found at Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, I tried a blue, pink, and orange combination. That didn't work too well.
Mm.
There we go.
The key here is this gel stain. Walnut.
Okay, good.
Then just
Thank you.
titanium white and black. That's all.
Mhm. Super.
Anybody else have any questions for Tom?
All right. Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you so much, Tom. That's beautiful modeling. Really is. Just fantastic.